All right, so this one is going to be about kind of two things: agent logs and viewing execution data to understand what is going wrong. So I think what we're going to do is just kind of talk to this agent, maybe make some things break on purpose, and interpret those error messages and how you can go about trying to solve them, even if you kind of don't know what they mean. So let's start off. I've got my Telegram open. I'm going to say, please create a calendar event for tomorrow with Nate Herkelman at 5 p.m. So we're going to shoot that off. Just going to watch it happen, right? Not sure if anything will go wrong on this one or not. If it doesn't, that's fine. And we'll look at execution data and we'll see basically exactly what it did. And then we can go in there and maybe make some things break and pretend like we didn't do that and see what the thought process would be like. So looks like everything's fine. And let's say I don't want to go to my actual calendar, but how can we go see what it did to make sure that it actually did create that calendar event? Because we can see that it said it did, but we have to actually see if it did or not. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click into the agent, and what we can do is we can click on the logs right here. And this is going to let us see chronologically how the agent did what it was supposed to do. So the first thing that it did is it got our input. As you can see right here, please create a calendar event for tomorrow with Nate Herkelman at 5 p.m. And then what it does is it reads its system message right here. And then this is basically accessing the memory. So because we have the memory set up to do 5 context window length or whatever it is, you can see it's like loading this into the memory. And then it's going to hit its chat model because, that's its brain. It's going to basically hit its brain, as you can see, between every step, because it's going to be like, okay, here's what I'm supposed to do. Here's my memory. Here's my system prompt. What is my first step? Then I'm going to go do something, and then I'm going to take that data back from that tool, and I'm going to think, okay, here's my end goal. Here's what I just did. What do I do now? So anyways, we'll see what that looks like. But as you can see, it read through its system prompt. And then what it did at the end is we can see an output, which there's nothing here, but what the output was it basically sent off a query to the contact agent, because that's next. So the query it sent to the contact agent was get Nate Herkelman's contact information. And so we can see we got a response, which was Nate Herkelman's contact information is blah, 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 blah. But before we move on, what I want to do is I want to see how did it actually get my contact information. So I'm going to click on view sub execution. This takes us to the contact agent exact execution that just happened. And we can tell because if I click onto here, this is the exact query that the main agent sent over, which was get Nate Herkelman's contact information. We can then have this inception where we have the contact agent within an agent where we look at its logs. We can see it read through its system prompt. It decided to use the Airtable tool, pulled back the contact information, and then it responded with, here is the information about Nate Herkelman. And then, of course, it responds that back to the main agent. So that's how it got this response. Then it goes back to its chat model, and it thinks, okay, I just got Nate Herkelman's contact information, but what did the human ask me to do again? It wanted me to create a calendar event for tomorrow with Nate Herkelman. So I have Nate Herkelman's contact information. What's next? I'm going to call the calendar agent. And the query that I'm sending over to the calendar agent is create a calendar event for tomorrow at 5 p.m. with Nate Herkelman. And also this time I have his email now, and create him as an attendee. And then the response is, I've created that. Let me know. But we're going to go see how it actually did that. So I'm going to click again on view sub execution. This time we're looking at the calendar agent rather than the contact agent. And we can just make sure the query was the same one that the main assistant just passed over to it, which it is. We can click into here and look at this agent's logs. All it did was one step. It read its system prompt. It hit the create event tool, and it sent over event start time and event end time, the attendee email, and the title. So we can see that it created it for tomorrow, which is May 2nd. That's correct. And I asked it to do 5 p.m. So it did 17, which is 5 p.m. It ends at 18, which is 6 p.m. And it added me as an attendee, as well as titled it Meeting with Nate Herkelman. And this is basically the ID of the actual event that it made. So this is basically our confirmation that it did create the event. And then, of course, it just basically goes back and it responds to the main workflow by going over here and says, I have created the event. If you need any further events or modifications, let me know. And so that response, as we just saw here, is exactly what we see right here, because this was the output of the tool. So goes to its system prompt. It thinks about what it did. We have it do its think step, which basically means think about what you were told to do, think about what you've done, and then just basically confirm that you're ready to go. And it said confirm Nate Herkelman's contact information and created a calendar event for tomorrow at 5 p.m. with him as an attendee. No further steps required. So because it said that, it knows that it can basically respond to us as, the human. Here's the response we got in our Telegram. If you can see right here, exact same response. And then it goes and basically just updates its memory so it can then look at its memory next time. And the reason actually why up here there's no memory is because this was the first interaction. So down here you can see here's the human ask, here's the AI response. And if we said something else right now, we'd see more memory. So if I just say, hey, how's it going? Hit its memory, it's going to do its task. It responds to us with, hello, I'm good. How can I assist you? But now if we look at the logs, we can see in its memory, it basically has here's the input, and then here are the interactions from the last time, right? So that's how that works. It called its think tool. The user sent a casual greeting with no actionable request. No further action is needed. Cool. Okay. Now let's say that something has broke. So let's go here. Oh, it's over here. I was confused. Okay, I'm going to open back up the contact agent. And there's a few types of breaking, right? There's a break where the node errors and it goes red and something actually breaks. Or there's a break where you don't know why it's not giving you the answer and you think it's hallucinating because everything went green. So let's take a look here. Let's say that I came in here and said, please get Michael Scott's phone number. Send that off. It's going to hit the contact agent and we'll just basically watch what happens and then we'll go investigate the execution data. And so hopefully this is insightful as to my thought process, right? When you guys are posting questions in the community, and a lot of times I'll say hey, could you please send some more screenshots of the execution data or the logs? We have to be able to look at, the full process of what's going on in order to understand, okay, is this something where we kind of need to tweak the system prompt? Is it a behavior issue or is it a tool configuration issue? Are we getting an actual red error, anything like that? So what happens here is it called the contact agent and everything went green, right? But it says, I can't find Michael Scott's phone number. And so if you basically said, hey, I asked my agent to get Michael Scott's phone number, it called the contact agent, and then it didn't get it for me, and all you did was send me a screenshot of this main agent, I'd be like, hey, could you please go into that sub-execution of the contact agent, and can you show me the execution data from this run? Otherwise, I can't tell what's going on here. So what we would see here is, the query comes in, get Michael Scott's phone number. The agent basically says, I don't have Michael Scott's phone number in the list. And if we go to the logs, we can see all it did was it ended up calling the add or update contact tool, which basically means I'm going to create or update a record, but that doesn't let me get records. And obviously that didn't work because we disconnected the get contacts tool. So that's why we can see, even though nothing went red, this isn't going to even allow us to get Michael Scott's contact information in the first place. So there's something like that, right? Let's go to the email agent real quick. And actually, real quick, I'm going to go back into the contact agent. We're going to reconnect that tool. And we should see, not memory, tool. And everything is going to be fine, right? So that's saved. But now let's do something in the email agent where, what we'll do is, this is a common one I see a lot, is the agent's looking for a prompt in the connected chat trigger node, but there's no chat trigger node. So we'll save that. We'll come back in here. Please create a calendar, Please send an email to Michael Scott asking what's up. Okay, so we'll see if it can interpret my little mess up there. I think it should be able to because it obviously it's AI and it can recognize intent. So contact agent, okay. Let's see what happened here. So I couldn't find an email address for Michael Scott. Okay, we'll look at the logs. It called the contact agent and it says it could not be found. We'll look at the sub execution. What I'm thinking is what happened is that it just didn't save the changes in time. Oh, okay, this is interesting. So it did save the changes. It has the get contacts tool. And what happened is, this is the output of the tool, right? Michael Scott's down here. So what happened is, on that previous run, it basically updated Michael Scott's record and it took away his contact information. So that's interesting, right? Cool. So let's try doing that again, but that's good to identify, right? Because the only reason I know that that happened is because I went in and I looked at the execution data from the previous contact agent run, and I saw that it tried to add a record called Michael Scott, and it didn't have phone number or email. So that's why Michael Scott in our Airtable, I'll actually just show you guys, is a blank record. So if I come here to contacts, Michael Scott now has no email and no phone number, and it wasn't like that before. So that's why it just responded to us and said, hey, I can't find Michael's email. Cool. So we'll try something else. Please send an email to Nate Herkelman asking if he had a good day. And as we know, this is going to error, and then we have to go investigate why it errored. But stick with me. We are about to do a different example, because I know you might be sick of this Ultimate Assistant, but I was confused for a sec why this errored, but I think I know why. So we'll click into it, right? Unable to perform task, please try again. The response to us was, it looks like my attempts to send an email to Nate Herkelman didn't go through. So we have to go figure out why. So we'll click on the sub execution. And the reason this worked and it didn't actually go red is because we set up this guardrail, which was basically if this node errors, you're going to go down the error path and you're just going to say, unable to perform task, please try again. So it didn't work, of course, because no prompt was specified, because it's looking for connected chat trigger node, but the query is right here. So real quick, before we go to a different example, I just want to show you. If I turn this off and I went to stop workflow on error, and we come back here and we say, send an email to Nate Herkelman asking what's up. It's definitely going to error this time. So it's going to get the email, and then it's going to come here and it's going to go red, and then we're going to get some error message, right? So it's even tried twice. It just tried 3 times. Okay, so 3 times was the limit. I'm experiencing issues sending the email now. We'll click into here. We can see that, first of all, the error message is that it expected to find the prompt in a field called chat input. This is the chat trigger node output. To use something else, change the prompt parameter. So we'll click into view sub execution. We will see exactly what happened, which is right here, it errored on the agent level. It gave us this message, and we would say, okay, I see we're not referencing the right prompt. So I would just click debug in editor. And all that's going to do is it's going to copy that live execution data. And then we would just basically switch this to define below. We would drag in that query, and then we could hit test step and make sure and see if it's working now. Looks like it's running. It created the draft, and then it's going to respond. So we are now good to go. And all I'm going to do is just switch this back to continue using error output and drag this back in. Cool. So that's kind of the way I would go about, like, obviously there's tons of different error messages, right? And we kind of talked about what those could look like in the API, one of the API's videos. But the first step really is to, when something doesn't go as expected, especially if everything is green, the first step is to look at the logs and just follow the trail. If you follow the trail, you'll see where things have slipped through the cracks, and you'll see where things went wrong, because you can literally watch the transfer of data as input, output, and just go investigate what happened. From there, if you're actually getting a red node, a red error, then you go straight there after you follow the trail to it, and you read the error message, because a lot of times, and n8n has already made their error messages way more intuitive. It's basically going to be telling you in natural language what's going wrong. That doesn't mean it's going to be a super simple and super obvious fix, but it's going to be telling you what's wrong. A lot of times that will be, obviously the first thing you need, and then all you have to do is make some tweak. And the thing about error messages, especially within n8n, is over my time doing all these automations, 2 things I want to touch on here. The first one being, it's pretty much impossible to make a workflow from end to end with 0 errors. Like, even at the point of where I am now with n8n, I have errors all the time that I have to fix. But the good news there is, in general, 99% of your errors are going to be the same, like 4 to 5, right? So what I'm saying is, you get an error message, you read it, you go find out how you fix it, and you just become more and more like experienced at seeing these messages and going and fixing them right away. And that's so much better for your learning and for your creative problem solving ability than going straight to like a forum or Googling the error messages. That's a great step. That's step number 2, is to Google that error message. There's probably other people that have experienced that exact error if you have. But first is just try to figure it out yourself. I've seen some people ask me like, hey, I'm having this error, and it will literally say like API key invalid. And I'll say, okay, like, what do you think the issue is here? And they won't know. And so there's a big difference between, okay, I recognize that my API key is invalid, but I'm just having trouble setting up that header authorization parameter because I'm a little confused with the API doc. That's a lot different than just, I have no idea what to do. Like, I'm just going to freak out because I'm just confused. So if you can at least pinpoint the source, right? And sorry, that was a bit of a ramble, but that's just kind of like the way I feel about when it comes to troubleshooting. So what I wanted to show you guys that I thought was interesting is, this is obviously a model selector, and that's not what the focus is. The focus here is just like RAG. So when you're doing something like RAG, a lot of times it's like, I don't understand like where my agent's getting this information, or it's hallucinating, or it's not getting what I want. And so that's what I wanted to talk about real quick, which is looking at the RAG logs. So actually, just to make this better, I probably need to pull up the actual doc that we're looking at here. So give me one sec. It is the policy and FAQ doc. Okay. So first I'm going to ask about shipping and warranty policies, right? So can you please give me information about our shipping and our warranty policy? Okay. So it's going to create a query that sends over to vector database, Supabase. And so we can already see down here in our logs, it called the vector database twice. So the first time what it did is it sent over the query shipping policy. And then it obviously went and thought about it. Not thought about it. What it did is it thought about it here with its brain. It creates that query. It gets stuff back. It has to use the embeddings, right? Because that's like what vectors are. And then it's going to go query it again. And the second time it queries for warranty policy. So we had 2 queries, one for shipping, one for warranty. And then we can basically see all that text that we bring back from Supabase. Then we have our brain, our chat model, use that text to actually create some sort of answer. So that's RAG, right? Retrieval, augmented generation. But what I wanted to point out here is the way that your agent sends queries to the vector database. So if you're confused about the input or the output that you're getting from something, you want to go look at the way that data was sent over, right? So we can see exactly what our agent sent. So let me try something a little bit more complex, right? So if I said like, okay, I got an idea. Common misconception about vector databases is that you can have something summarize everything in there. So summarize our policies. We'll see if it even hits the vector database. It probably will, okay? But the type of query it's going to send over is going to be something like policy summary. Or if it's smart enough, it may be able to use some other sort of context. It's hit it twice, so this is interesting. We'll see what it does. But notice I haven't given this agent memory. Okay, so first time, what it does is it searches off a query, policies general summary. And what it does is it's searching for instances of words that mean the exact same thing or similar things as policies general summary. And that's not like the same way that you can basically like have this be summarized, right? Because where in here is it going to say like policy general summary? Anyways, then the second time it does company policies. So I think it learned a little bit about what it got back, and it says, okay, maybe I need to take a different approach. And then I just say company policies. But what you'll notice is that this is not going to be very holistic of the entire document. And that's like one of the limitations with vector database RAG is all we're doing is even if we have, one document was split up into 200 chunks, all we can do is inspect each chunk individually and not the entire document. So I'm not going to dive into that because that's not the point of this video and I've been rambling. My point was you can learn a lot about these systems, and that's how I learned a lot about tool calling and prompting is just by asking it to do something and then inspecting step by step what it did and why. And it's really interesting to see how the different models affect the inputs that they will send to different tools. So hopefully this one was helpful and insightful because that's like just something that I have found really, really helpful when I started learning not only AI workflows, but especially when you get into agents, is being able to just look at those logs and, take it step by step. So that's going to do it for this one. Appreciate you guys.